Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Chronicles of Hollywood History, Past, Present, and Future. Welcome. And here now, Corey Gomez.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Chronicles of Hollywood History, Past, Present, and Future. Today I am joined by writer, producer, actor, stunt work, ADR loop group. I am joined, also a teacher and a Muay Thai practitioner, Mr. Ty Granderson Jones. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, sir. I'm very humble, Corey. I'm humbled by anyone that shows interest in my journey. I always run into people when I go to the grocery store, whatever, they want autographs and photos, and I'm always open, and they're always so enamored by that I'm so open, and I'm like, look, I should be genuflecting that you recognize my work, my journey, So it should be just the other way around. I think artists that have had any degree of success in film, stage, whatever, music, it should, keep an even head and be humble about the recognition of their work. So thank you very much.
Before I ask you how you got started, I got to say, I just watched you the other day. I got the box set. I'm a big fan of the Angel series. And you played the pig.
Are you kidding me?
I swear to God. When I got, if you need proof, I talked to Barry Pearl from Grease, and I asked him more questions about Angel 2 than Grease. I am a fan of the Angel series. I have the box.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Nobody knows about Angel, the series.
Angel's great. I mean, how do you not?
Nipsey Capture.
I mean, come on. The poster for the first one was Honor Student by Day, Hollywood Hooker by Night. That's a classic series. A little corny by today's standards, but it's awesome.
Right. Yeah, the actress, her name today, to be politically correct, the actor, Mitzi Capture, I think that was her name.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was always a different angel.
Right. That's the film I did. It was Mitzi Capture, I think.
And Maud Adams was in it too.
Yeah. She got to see my Mitzi Capture. She got to see my package.
But you didn't mess around too much with Shaft, because my God, Richard Roundtree's in it.
Right. And that's and interesting enough, that's actually how I got the role. It was offered to me because at the time, Richard Roundtree and myself had the same manager. His name was Patrick McMahon. And the way Hollywood worked back then, and still does in a major way, is, in certain productions of films and so forth, when they want one of the stars, one of the big guys, the agent manager negotiates, say, yeah, okay, we'll do that, or you don't want to pay him that much money, or you don't want to give him this and give him that. Well, look, there's another role in there, in that particular project, in the film, that I'd love for you to package that this other talent that I have into that package. And so I was packaged into it because the production and the director wanted Richard Roundtree, so I was sort of the package with Richard Roundtree. And that's how I got that role.
Well, now to go backwards just a little bit, how did you get started originally in the acting business?
Oh, wow. This is, initially, I knew that I always wanted to be an actor since I was like maybe 6, 7 years old. Because, my father, my late father, who we lost him in 2014, but on the eastern seaboard from New York all the way down to Florida, he was a well-known political activist, and he brought home people like Shirley Chisholm, Barbara Jordan, Julian Bond for dinner. Matter of fact, Shirley Chisholm, who is actually the first woman to run for president of the United States, not Hillary Clinton. I remember when I was a small kid, my father gave a cocktail party. But anyway, long story short as I can make it, is my dad and my grandfather were in the movies. And we'd watch all of this stuff, a lot of the you see today on Turner Classic Films, the films of 50s, 60s, even 40s, 70s, all that stuff. And my grandfather used to babysit me all the time, and we used to watch all of these Cagney films and Bogart films because my grandfather was into that. And by the same token, my grandfather was working for Cap Calloway. And he also chauffeured Lauren Bacall, who was a great actress from with the 40s and 50s, who was married to Humphrey Bogart. And so there was always that indirect connection to show business and film. And then my grandfather being a big film buff and watching films with my dad. And they would actually quiz me on, who's that? Well, that's Robert Mitchum. Who's that? That's James Cagney. Who's that? That's Sidney Poitier, So early on, and it just wasn't those films. We were watching a lot of Chinese cinema, Italian cinema, Japanese cinema. So I regard myself as a film buff from the age of 6, 7 years old. And so I knew I always wanted to be an actor. I recall sitting when I was a very small kid, my father's mother, who was born in the French quarters in New Orleans. I'm part Creole and other Latino, Cuban. And anyway, my father's mother, she said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, "Grandma, I want to be an actor." She said, "Oh, I'll get to see a movie." And I was like, "No, Grandma, by the time that happens, you'll be in that pointed to the ground." I didn't know any better, just a small kid. But the fortunate thing, she lived to be 92, I think, somewhere around there. And she did get to see me on the silver screen, so that was a beautiful thing. But, so, as time went on, I kind of, in high school, I was doing some drama stuff, but I kind of got in trouble. And by the time I got out of high school, I'd forgotten what my dream was. I was locked up for a couple of years. Thanks to my father and my politically connected family, expunged record to this day. But I got into a bit of trouble and was locked up for a couple of years. And by the way, my story is in a very noted Hollywood photo journal called Mugshots, which is a very beautiful, award-winning photo journal.
It's a very good book.
Oh, you know it?
Oh, yes. It has my man Danny
Trejo?
No, Danny Trejo and Emilio Rivera.
Right. That's funny. I just talked to him there. Emilio, over the holidays because he was at my wedding when I got married 19 years ago at the home of Bing Rames, as Bing Rames was my second best man. But Emilio was there at my wedding, so over the holidays, my wife and I, we got married 19 years ago on Christmas Eve. So Emilio was at that wedding, and so he reached out to, happy anniversary and that kind of thing. But, so that's why my story, a little bit of my story, I can't put all of my story in Mugshots. But once I got out, man, it was like, I recall, and I tell this story, I was in a small apartment in Tampa, Florida, where I was raised, and I was watching a little black and white television, raggedy television, with a clothes hanger for an antenna. And I was watching the show on PBS, American Parade special presentation of a play called Ceremonies in Dark Old Men, starring Glenn Turman. And watching that inspired me so much. It was like a bell went off, and all of a sudden I remembered, oh shit, yeah, actor. That's what I want to do. Right? And before I got incarcerated, I had already gotten accepted to college. See, I was one of these brilliant little criminal minds. But I forgot about all of that. And after watching this black and white, this Ceremonies in Dark Old Men on this little television, it was like a bomb went off in my soul. And the next day, I just I packed up and went up to Florida A&M University and Florida State University. I hear you pop, man. There's a pop in the background.
Yeah, Stoney's friend Hank in the background.
Oh, hey, yeah, I love pop. I love dogs, man. My dog I grew up with, his name was Thunder, and he's my best friend, man, But anyway, So I go to college, Florida State University and Florida A&M University, and I initially majored in political science because I grew up in sort of around, my father being a political activist and knowing all these, the ins and outs of that whole game. So one day I was walking by in college at Florida A&M University. Bulletin board. It was an audition it was information in regards to an audition for a play called The River Niger. And I said, okay. You actually wanted to act, you actually wanted to do theater, but you wanted to be smart and major in political science. Why not go do the play? And my minor was broadcast journalism. So I said, okay, go do the play. Audition for the play. I auditioned for it, I booked the role, and I ended up being a big hit in the play, and the play was a big hit on campus. The next day I changed my major from political science to theater arts. And at that point, I ended up doing most of my studies at Florida State University because they had a bigger, better program. They had the School of Theater at Florida State University, wherefore Florida A&M University had the Department of Theater, and there was just more opportunity. And I could actually take advantage of that opportunity because they had a co-op program where you can actually attend both universities in Tallahassee, Florida. So I ended up, doing a lot of plays at Florida State University, and then one week, this guy came down from New York, and he brought a bunch of actors with him and folk with him to do a workshop at Florida State University's School of Theater, and I participated in the workshops. And I really, out of ignorance, didn't really know who this guy was. He had brought people down that were like, I recognize that guy from The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. He brought Eli Wallach with him. He brought Kevin McCarthy with him. I know that guy from the original The Body Snatchers movie,
Mm-hmm.
I just knew movies. I didn't know that these were big theater guys, and I was very ignorant when it came to theater. And the guy that brought them down and brought his, and this whole, crew of, actors to work with us and do workshops for a whole week was Lee Strasberg from the Actors Studio, who co-founded the Actors Studio. And as you know, I'm sure, Corey, he was the teacher of a lot of great actors from Brando to Pacino, De Niro, Portier, everybody, this kind of thing. But I didn't know who the guy was, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so we did all these works, and he brought Harold Clurman from the group theater. These are big theater people looking back, and some of the greatest from the 40s and the, giants, man. So we doing all these workshops, but at the time, I did not know. So on this particular day, after doing a workshop, we've gone to other classes that we have to take. And at the end of this particular day, I'm walking across campus. The sun is setting. I think it was in the fall. And the sun is setting. And Lee Strasberg, this little guy who I didn't really know who he was a little bit taller than me, small guy like me. And I saw, that's the guy from New York. They brought the guy from The Good, Bad, and the Ugly, and the guy from The Body Snatchers called me up on stage, and we did all this stuff, and been in classes with Harold Clurman. I said, he's still over there by himself with a suitcase. So I went up to him and I said, and I literally poked him in the chest, man. Because I was such a punk at the time. And I said, when I graduate here, I'm coming to New York to see you. And he stood back and he looked at me. And he goes, you do that, young man. He had those little wire frame glasses. And I'm looking at, and he looked at me like, this kid's got a lot of nerve. See, sometimes ignorance can actually work for you, because if I actually know,
that.
right, because if I had known the guy was a great Lee Strasberg, I probably would have ran the other way or whatever, I don't know, but here I am poking my finger in his chest and threatening him that I'm going to actually go to New York and see him when I graduate. which is exactly what I did when I graduated. And he wasn't doing much at the time, and he was a lot of times he was in LA and not in New York. But I waited out. I showed up every day till I found where, his whereabouts of office at the old actor studio was, and one day he showed up, and I go, "You remember me?" And I'm pretty sure he yes, and he sort of actually remembered me because he poked him in his chest about 2 or 3 years ago when he was down at Florida State University, So anyway, he invited me to actually audit some of his stuff, his classes, and what he was doing, and I was going to have to audition if I wanted to be a member, and which wasn't easy to get an audition at that time. So he allowed me in an improvisation workshop thing that he was doing, and I did an improvisation thing, and he really dug it, And at that time, I did not know that the head of, at that time, the drama department at Juilliard, who's one of the greatest Broadway or theater directors, American theater directors in the world, actually, the late Alan Schneider, who introduced Samuel Beckett to America, Waiting for Godot, and he was the first to stage Edward Albee's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, the great Alan Schneider. I didn't know that he had actually saw what I was doing in class, because for some reason he was over at the actor studio snooping around, and he approached me and says, "Hey kid, I'm doing I'm going to do an ethnic version of Waiting for Godot. Beckett's Waiting for Godot." I'm like, "Beckett waiting for who?" Because I don't know what the hell, I'm new to all this, I'm theater and learning, and I didn't. So Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot. He said, "Yeah, I want you to do the role of Lucky, and let's workshop it." So we started workshopping, and then in the middle of workshopping that, he got an opportunity to leave the program at Juilliard to go to the University of California, San Diego, and develop a Master's of Fine Arts program in directing. So he said, we can't continue to do this. We have to, at this time, but I'm going out to La Jolla, California. I'm like, where? He's in San Diego to the University of California to develop this program. How would you like to come with me, get your MFA in acting? I'm like, is California, how far is that from Hollywood? Because I'm thinking movies. So he goes, "Yeah, but you got to audition for the program. You missed your auditions here in New York, but they're auditioning for the program in Chicago." So I'm like, well, I ain't got a dime in my pocket to go to Chicago. So he helps me get to Chicago. I ended up staying with a friend who I had gone to college with at FAMU at his parents' house. Went in and auditioned for the head of the department at that time, who I consider one of my great mentors, because I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for him, Michael Addison. And before I can even get back to New York, they had accepted me into the program in La Jolla, California, to get my MFA in acting with a full fellowship. And I was like only one of 3 young actors of color that's ever been in that program, and to get this full fellowship. So I packed up from New York, went back home down to Florida before I went out to California. I was a little bit anxious and scared. I'd never been that far away from Florida, and my college sweetheart, we had broken up, and that's another long story. And here I am, and she's not going to go with me, so anyway, long story short, I ended up getting my Master's of Fine Arts in acting in what is considered one of the top 3 programs in the world to this date. Tons of well-known actors to this day, even after my class, have participated and trained at that particular program. And during the summers when I had off, I would leave La Jolla and I would come up to Hollywood and find my way. Once I graduated, I came, based myself in L.A., but went back to New York, did a couple plays, came back out to L.A., did a couple plays, and there were two major plays that were like major hits. And back in the day, in the 80s, theater, LA was like a Renaissance town. Everybody came out to see good theater, no matter how small the theater was or how small the play was. There was a lot of equity waiver stuff, wasn't big equity shows. Mm-hmm. But all the casting directors and the producers, it was a Renaissance town, man. And there are two particular plays. One is called A Bomb in Gilead, which starred Dennis Christopher from way back in the day, Breaking Away with Dennis Quaid. I don't know if you remember that movie.
I do remember that one.
Yeah. The play was starring Dennis Christopher, Cyril O'Reilly from what are Porky's? The movie Porky's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A long time.
Yeah. And it was a lot of these guys who were like the young up and coming stars and they were already here and paved their way. And so this play, Bomb in Gilead, was a major hit. Big time writer poet to this day was in it. Michael Nally, who was real tight with people like Alec Baldwin and a lot of people. So everybody came out to see Bomb in Gilead. And the other play was a play called In Big East, written by one of the most brilliant unsung playwrights in the game to this day, Reggie Bruce. And after those plays and being in those plays and all the casting and producers coming out, it got me my first audition for what became my first film, which was the Oscar-nominated film Salvador. And what Oliver Stone had written, and then boom, that was it, and that's how I broke out a little bit.
And you can't ask for a better starring role than a James Woods film.
Yeah, right. Right.
I like James. James Woods he's a hell of an actor.
Yeah, well, he's not doing it anymore. He's kind of lost his mind and went, extreme, crazy, to the right, which I don't have, but he's past on the right.
Yeah, he's pretty far gone, I think, is about the best way to say it. Unless he's just being a really good actor, I don't know. But no, I think he still went crazy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and I learned a lot from working with him. That was like I guess you could say Salvador was my first film. And, you want to hear a funny story how I booked that film? And this is a true story, man. Being, and, I'm not traditionally African-American, I'm not really dark skinned, I'm half Latino, I'm Creole and all this thing. And then what I had here, was wavy and all this stuff. So anyway, Bob Moronis, the casting director at the time, had brought me in to read for Oliver Stone. And so I show up, and the breakdown for this particular character, which is the opening scene of Salvador, and it's the, he's a landlord, a crooked piece of shit landlord, man, that James Woods' character owes a lot of money and this kind of thing. And he's actually not the landlord, but he's collecting for the landlord, And anyway, the breakdown for that particular character, in terms of the type that they were looking for was African-American, huge, intimidating. Now I'm barely 5'5", man. And I'm stretching it there, by a lot. Okay, and then I look, Latino, more Latino than anything, and so I walk in, and about 4 or 5 well-known, huge black guys, actors, well-known at the time, were sitting in the hallway, and they started cracking up at me, like, what is this dude doing here, man? And Oliver and Jimmy and the casting director were out to lunch, so we had to wait and was waiting and waiting and waiting. And finally, Oliver Stone shows up. Now, once again, ignorance is working for me because I really don't know who the hell Oliver Stone is. I know, looking back, he had written, and my boys were telling me, he wrote Year of the Dragon with Mickey Rourke, and he wrote Conan the Barbarian, and, with Schwarzenegger, he's big. I said, oh, okay, all right, So Oliver Stone walks in with James Woods and the casting director, Bob Moronis. And Oliver stops right at me and he starts picking at me. He goes, "What are you doing here?" And then he looks at Bob Moronis, who is, Chicano, Latino, and he goes, "Who's this, Bob, your little brother?" And he goes, "You're not African." And so I stood up and looked at Oliver. So I said, "You pardon my language. What the fuck you mean? I'm not. What do you know about being black? You don't know. You know what? You know what? Fuck you, man. I'm out of here." He goes, "Whoa. Hold on. Come in and follow me in the office," right? And those big black guys, they're sitting there cracking up at me, and Oliver Stone making fun of me. So he said, "Come here." So we go in his office. He sits behind his desk. Bob Moronis is sitting in the corner, and James Woods is sitting down, sitting on the couch, facing Oliver Stone, as Oliver sat behind the desk. And I'm sitting in the chair facing Oliver as he's behind his desk. Bob Moronis is in the corner. So he says, "Look, I want you to go outside my office. I want you to do an improvisation. I want you to come in, and I want you to get your money from James Woods, or either throw him out. Just do a thing." I said, "Okay." Well, that's where I excelled. If you recall, I said I was doing improvisation exercise with Lee Strasberg back in the day, long before that, right? So I walk out of his office, and I close the door, and I'm knocking, and I'm like, bam, bam, bam. I'm like, I'm about everybody sticking their hands out of the, like, what's going on? And I'm really into it, because I'm knocking on Oliver Stone's office door. And then Jimmy comes and he opens his door, and he goes, "Yeah, what?" So we doing this improv, man. Man, I was on Jimmy's ass. I whooped his ass. I put him down, and Oliver goes, "Whoa. Close the door, man. Close the door. Calm down. Whoa. And Jimmy sits down. He's like, "What the fuck?" And Oliver, I'm already pissed off. And Oliver said, "Sit down. You got the role." I go, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, you got the role." But I said, "For real?" "Yeah." But you got the role. I like this dynamic. You got the role. But do me a favor. Don't say anything to those guys outside in the hallway when you leave, because I still have to read them. I went, "Okay." All right. I said, okay. All right, I won't. I close the door. I'm walking out. I'm headed toward the elevator, and I look to the left where all the guys are sitting on the couch. I said, "You motherfuckers can go home." True story. True story, man. But it was a great experience working with both Oliver and Jimmy. I learned a lot from working with Jimmy in terms of how to, move dynamics, how, action, activity in the scene to make the scene real and interesting. He would do things like take a cigarette pack and put an empty cigarette pack in his pocket and put 2 or 3 cigarettes in the drawer next to his bed. And I was like, "What the hell is he doing in the middle of the scene?" He'd be talking to me, and he'd reach out in his pocket and pull out an interest, looking for a cigarette, and this empty cigarette pack, and then he'd toss it and start looking for cigarettes, and little things like that just brings scenes and action and activity, that kind of activity things to life, So I was watching him and go, "Wow, interesting," and we had bonded. He brought me in to read for a film that he was directing, but he didn't cast me, and Jimmy Woods did, and I actually had a platoon script in my hand before anybody, and Oliver had promised me one of the roles in the film, but it just didn't happen because politically, when the big agents and everybody's packaging, and next thing you know, Matt Dillon's brothers and this and that in the role, and I was so disappointed, man. But both of those films, Platoon and Salvador, which never really happens, they were both nominated for Best Picture the same year, in the same category. And Jimmy was nominated for Best Actor. And I was actually at the Oscars that year, too. So. But that's pretty much how my ride and my journey started. And then I just, almost 80 plays later of working with the late August Wilson, doing plays like Joe Turner's Come and Gone when it left Broadway, and came to LA, did the LA premiere with August Wilson sitting in rehearsals, which was nerve-wracking, but on stage opposite great guys like Roscoe, the late Roscoe Lee Brown. But yeah, I'm basically from the theater, and I think I'm biased. All the great film actors come from the theater, so.
Now, how did all of that, and James Woods, Oliver Stone, how did all that prepare you for one of my favorites? Your role as 40 Dog in Cell Block 4 with Chris Rock. I think the most underrated comedy of the 90s, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, it didn't prepare me at all, because it was and you're the only one that called it Cell Block 4, that was the original title, Cell Block 4, and then they cut it to CB4.
It's a great. I saw it in the theater. I was high as a kite when I saw it in the theater, but then I did see it again on home video when I was all sobered up. And I love it. It is a very clever film.
Yeah, you know what? I was just talking to Willard Pugh yesterday, and Willard played what was his character name? The Muddy. So the Muddy. He was the Crooked record producer. Willard Pugh, who was also Harpo in The Color Purple.
Like trust us, don't trust me.
Trust us, yeah. Trust us, Jones. Yeah, trust us, don't trust me. Yeah, I was just talking to Willie yesterday, man. That he was just saying, man, could you do you believe how? And I had to remind Willard that we actually opened at #1 that weekend. And he said, no, I didn't. He said, I thought we didn't open well. I said, no, you're right. We didn't open well because there was a major storm in New York and on the East Coast, and it really messed up the box office that weekend. But we still opened at #1, and I reminded him that, and what Willard did not know is there has been major articles written in major hip hop magazines about CB4. One in particular, I can't remember which magazine it was, but it's a very interesting article. The 16 to 17 ways CB4 influenced the future of hip hop. We didn't know. See, first of all, I wasn't really that keen on doing the film. Okay, it's not the type of film that I really wanted to do. That comedy, playing off the little crazy guy. It goes all the way back to when I was recurring on Webster. Remember that show?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I played Webster's music teacher, and what Hollywood was trying to do, and I probably messed up. I probably would be in a $50 million house to this day. If I just kept going that direction, but it wasn't appealing to me. They were trying to do. I probably could have been Kevin Hart before Kevin Hart. The little funny guy. And that wasn't appealing to me. Just to be doing comedies, I wanted to do everything. I wanted to do the heavy stuff. Mm-hmm. And although when CB4 came about, no one. My agent had dropped me, so I didn't have an agent. And I just happened to be hanging out one night at a coffee shop where one of my boys, who was an actor, we were at the same agency, which at the time was called Ambrosio Mortimer. And Ambrosio Mortimer had us all, man. It had Samuel L. Jackson, it had Angela Bassett, it had Richard Edson, it had MC Gainey, it had me, and anyway, we parted. And I didn't have an agent. And one of my boys that was at the same agency, Ambrosio Mortimer, his girlfriend said, "Hey, did you read for CB4 yet?" What are you talking about? He says, "CB4, they're looking for like a small, tough guy, can play gangster and be funny." I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm not with Ambrosio Mortimer. She says, "Well, I'm an agent. My boy's girl was an agent." She said, "I'm going to submit you first thing on Monday and get on the phone and see what happens." So nothing really happened because the casting director, as I heard, I don't know how true it is, Kim Martin, she wasn't that sold on me, and nobody really wanted me for the role from the casting producing point of view. And they would call around looking for, we need a small, short, tough And everybody kept telling her Ty Granderson Jones. No matter where they call, it was Ty Granderson Jones, Ty Granderson Jones. So finally, I got the audition. And to be frank, like I said, I was like, I'll do it. This is not the kind of thing I want to do. I don't want to do no spoofy, funny shit like this. I just don't want to do it. It's not my thing. I want to get an Oscar one day, and I know this ain't it. I want to work my way. I want to do real shit, and I don't want to be the funny little guy anymore. Neither. I don't want to be the funny little guy. I don't want to do stupid funny shit. I don't want to do none of this. But it was a job. You know what I mean? Yeah. And looking back, man, I'm nothing but gratitude that I did it, because it's a major cult hit. I got fans all around the world, because of CB4, and I'm nothing but gratitude. You just never know how something's going to pan out, in the future of it, And but anyway, I go in, they call me in, and I had to read for Tamara Davis, the director, and Chris Rock, who had co-written it and was starring in it, and I had to read with Charlie Murphy. Okay? Now, I had already done Harlem Nights with Eddie. Okay?
CB4 is the funnier of the two.
Right. Yeah, right. But I didn't have a major role in Harlem Nights like I did starring role in CB4. But it could have been, they had booked me initially in the role that Arsenio played, okay? Mm-hmm. And because the way I heard it, I don't know how much true it is Arsenio didn't really want to do it, but Eddie had written it for him, and they were really tight, and they were going to fall apart at their friendship if Arsenio didn't do it. So they had booked me in that role. I tore it up in the audition. And at the last moment, when they had already booked my contract, and SAG union rules is you still got to pay me, they said, well, let's just put him in this role. And Eddie was like, look, we're going to do some improvisation stuff in this casino all around for this week. We booked you, and, sorry, blah, blah, blah. And that's why I ended up at the crap table with Red Fox, which is one of the funniest scenes in the movie that everybody said, when he says something ain't mine, we get the fuck out your eye, you blind motherfucker, blind Benny, But, and I remember I was so hungry, I wanted to, trying to work, man. I remember Danny Aiello showed up on the set, who was also in the movie, and he was like, who is this kid over here? Because he's tearing it up. He's eating it. Red Fox hated my guts, man, because what you see on film is real shit. He go, I ain't going to be too many more motherfuckers. And he was not well, and he was a step slow. Back in the day, Red Fox would have eaten me alive. But Eddie would cut and go whisper in his ear and tell him stuff, how to respond to me. But he was just a step too slow, and I was just, I'm like, I'm ready to spar, man. Let's go, Mm-hmm. But anyway, so I had already had that sort of, kinship when I had to read with Charlie for CB4 because of Harlem Nights. Because we didn't do anything together in Harlem Nights, but we were all hanging out on the sets together, chopping it up and that kind of thing. And me and Charlie just ended up having this really, really great chemistry, and I booked it on the spot. And me and Charlie just tore it up, man, and became the best of friends. And I miss him dearly, but I'm grateful, looking back, that I did do CB4, because it's a cult classic now, and I can't go anywhere without somebody going, it's just, I ain't no fool, whatever. So it's flattering.
I told Stoney, because you worked with Stoney in that too. The picture of Stoney in my phone is the picture of him in them pants, his wacky D's.
Those MC Hammer pants.
Yeah, I mean that was, and then you also did a lot of loop work, ADR loop work.
Yeah, that was basically survival stuff in between the gigs, and it was like, don't do it because it was like 2 days from being an extra or something, but it was like in between gigs. My career has never been like a lot of other guys' careers in this town. I go and do something major and start something and then work for another 2 or 3 years, and actors out here, it's like, you want to keep your insurance, and you want to, so the ADR stuff, I wasn't really crazy about, not even to this day, but, like on films like Heat, and, where the way you think, as the director shows you up going over here doing ADR stuff, he definitely ain't going to call you in for a role.
Well, when you
What I mean?
you did a little bit though for Original Gangsters, and
Yeah,
which was
yeah,
a
yeah, with
great
Fred
film.
Williamson.
I was just gonna say, did you get to be in the presence of the Hammer, Fred Williamson?
Oh yeah, but this is small, and a lot of guys I was watching when I was a kid, a lot of them have become personal friends of mine. Ron O'Neal took me under his wing. Richard Roundtree, I remember when I first, if we can wind back, when I told you I first got to LA, when I got my first apartment, which was in North Hollywood, out in the Valley, and there was a 7-Eleven down on the corner, and I remember within 2 weeks I walked down the street and I walked in the 7-Eleven, and I'm getting ready to leave, and Richard Roundtree walks in. He was my hero, man. Shaft was like, dude, come on, man. I had a Shaft jacket, this was my hero, and Richard Roundtree walked in. Dude, I was petrified. I was like, oh my god, and he started smiling, and it was just a real sweet guy, sweetheart. He goes, man, he was good, which I'm sure he was getting wherever he went, but, and then the way God works, man, and the universe works is, we end up with the same manager a couple of years later, because the manager saw me on stage in a play where they got the NAACP award going rounds. And that manager saw me in that play, and he had Richard Roundtree, and then me and Richard. So I'm blessed, man, that Richard Roundtree I can call a friend. The late Ron O'Neal. Glenn Turman is one of my closest friends, and Glenn is having a resurgence. These are guys I watch, growing up, man. And Glenn Turman, when I got out, I'm watching that little black and white TV, doing ceremonies in Dark Old Men, and then we end up really good friends because he's a cowboy, and I ride too. So we ended up, next thing I know, I'm on Glenn's ranch, and I'm riding his horses because I cowboy. He saw me in a play. We friended one another through Reginald T. Dorsey, another great actor who was a cowboy, black cowboys, and we're black cowboys, and we're riding. And then, here's the thing. I see Glenn when I'm out and don't know what I want to do with my life, watching ceremonies in Dark Old Man on public broadcasting on this little black and white TV with a clothes hanger for an antenna. And then I end up doing the 20th anniversary of that same play. Isn't that crazy?
It's surreal almost.
Yeah. With Lawrence Hilton Jacobs,
Oh, great guy. I talked to him about a month ago.
Yeah, that's my guy, one of my closest. He was at my wedding. He's like a brother to me. We played brothers in ceremonies in Dark Old Men, and
I got a Welcome Back Cotter lunchbox in my office.
Yeah, oh my God. Yeah, and these guys were here before me. They're older than me. They were here before me, and for them to have taken me under their wing and respect my craft and want to know what I think about their craft and their performances, and it's a small community, man. It's when you start working and you're doing things and everybody's showing up, and we love to revel in each other's wins and victories of craft and projects and surviving this game. Acting it's a noble profession. A lot of times you won't really feel that way or get that from the industry itself, because the industry doesn't really give a shit about your body of work. It's about, it's like, Todd Granderson Jones, was he in Black Panther? No, well, next. And they don't really care about your journey. I remember about a year ago, 2 years, right before COVID, I was at an event that I was invited to as a celebrity, and I was on the red carpet, and when you go to red carpet, you got the publicist person that runs the red carpet, and they come up and ask, your name if they don't know who you are, and your credits, so they can write it on a board and show it to the photographer, so the photographers know who you are, and the reporters know who you are from Variety, Hollywood Reporter, all these things. And so when they put your photo, they know it's, that. So I've done so much more, but my big bookends are Con Air and CB4, the biggest, that people know, but I've done so much more. So she says, your credits, I said, your name, Ty Granderson, your credit, Con Air CB4. So, nobody cares. Find something new next. And I was like, excuse me? Excuse me, yo, bitch, come here. I wanted to, but I didn't, it was like, wow. Because it's like, it's business. It's called show business. And the business aspect, generally speaking, they don't respect an actor's journey.
Mm-hmm.
And so at least what happens is we can respect each other's journey because we know how we bled over the years. Feast of famine. I've certainly have more less wins than less victories than I do. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I've not gotten roles. There are more roles that I've gotten than roles that I've gotten. And you could read for probably about 50 films that I didn't get. And about 10 of them would have probably changed the trajectory of my career.
No.
And the same, and Stoney can tell you the same thing.
When you did the loop work for Original Gangsters, did you read for the? Because I'm a really big fan of the film, and I really admire how Fred Williamson's. I don't know him, a hero of mine actually, but
really?
I've never told anybody this before, but I'll tell you. There was a documentary made about 10 years ago or so called Badass Cinema. Amazing documentary. Because I'm a big fan of 70s exploitation films. And when they interviewed Fred, everybody there, they're talking like Melvin Van Peebles, and these guys are all in suits or they're dressed nice. Fred is in silk pajamas, holding a cigar with slippers. And I said, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. So anytime I would ever do an online interview that it was in video, I went out and bought 5 pairs of silk pajamas, and I would wear them so I could be just like Fred Williamson. Because the coolest. That's almost like, you're so cool, you don't even give a fuck. You're in your living room in pajamas.
Yeah, Fred is big pimpin', man. Yeah, right. Big pimpin', man. One of my favorite films from back then is Three the Hard Way.
Oh, where they... That's, and the plot of that is so ridiculous where they want to put the chemical in the water and the chemical will only kill African Americans. But no, it's a great movie.
Right. I remember I was at Breakdown Services about 15 years ago or so. And, Breakdown Services is where you go. You got to upload your reels and your photos. And it's what the agents and managers use to submit to casting people. It's the game. It's the system here in Hollywood, pretty much. And I'm there trying to get my shit uploaded, and who walks in? And nobody knows who he is. And we talked for a minute. I go, hey, man, blah, blah, blah. And then when he left, I was still there, and he got all these little youngsters and, and little white girls and everybody and blah, blah, blah. Actually, you guys don't know who that is? That's Jim Kelly, man. That's Jim fucking Kelly. Into the Dragon, baby.
Dragon, Black Belt Jones, Hot Potato.
Black Belt Jones. Oh, yeah. And he looked pretty much in shape. I mean, we lost him, but he was struggling, man. He was coming in trying to hustle and upload his photo. It's a thankless business to some degree. A lot of actors who had big shots like that, they died broke, man. And it's a thankless game, man, to some degree.
I loved how in Third the Hard Way, when the cops pull him over in the beginning and like, your name's Mister, and he's like, that's what my mom named me because she always wanted everybody to call me Mister.
Right.
I mean, it's corny now when you kind of go back, but I mean, no, Third the Hard Way is to me it's an all-time classic.
Yeah, it is, man. It is, and that's why I'm like a kid in a candy store when all these guys, you know, became my took me under their wings and I mean, between Glenn Turman and Richard Roundtree and Art Evans and these guys and Roger Mosley, you know, and every time I see Roger, I want to give him a hug and a kiss. Don't kiss me, man. Don't kiss me. You know, I don't play. You know, it's really hard, dude. Don't kiss me, man. I go, but it's just, hey, man, I love you. Yeah, but that's good. Love me from over there.
Well, you know, I gotta ask because your other, of course, big name one is, great movie, one of the biggest movies of '97. You were in Con Air with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Malkovich. How did that come about?
Audition. The casting director who's one of the biggest, greatest casting directors who, you know, I don't know. I'm starting to think she's got something against me because I haven't seen her since Con Air. No, that's not true. She brought me in to read for, which I booked, and it was supposed to have been a recurring role on Everybody Hates Chris, and that's only because Chris had requested me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It was supposed to be a recurring thing, but it didn't turn into that. You know, about a 48-something-year-old dude who's still in junior high school, beating up little kids. You know, so I ended up doing that episode, and that was it. But the casting director, Victoria Thomas, she's one of the biggest in the game. I remember I read for Vicky's first film, which was Repo Man, back in the day with Emilio Estevez.
Oh, that's a great movie. Best soundtrack in movies.
Yeah. I read for one of the Rodriguez brothers.
Gotcha.
And the role that I read for, one of my best friends who was actually in that play I was telling you about, Balm and Gilead, got that role. His name was Eddie Velez, one of the great unsung Latin actors whose career sort of fell off a little bit, but he's still in the game, and that's my boy. You can look him up, Eddie Velez, bad man, but sweetheart of a guy, one of my closest, one of my top 10. But anyway, Vicky, who had brought me in the first project she ever cast, Repo Man, years later, I mean, because she's done Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, she does everything. Anyway, she brought me in for Con Air, and I recall her giving me a hard time when I was reading, saying, "Con, how you can do it better than that?" I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, bitch, what you talking about? You're doing it better than that. Come on, give me some. I've been doing this a while now. Give me some credit. I know what I'm doing. To the point where a lot of people, even at that time, did not know that I had coached Tupac for some stuff, and I had coached Whitney Houston for some stuff. Okay, but I was keeping that under wraps because this industry is tricky. You know, now it's cool. You can still be starring in films and coaching people on say and do TV shows, but back then it was like, well, he's not acting anymore. He's just teaching. He's just coaching. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a tricky thing, but I know my game. And what's so frustrating is you go in and these casting directors trying to give you adjustments. Then in the back of your mind, you feel it's not the right adjustment because look, I studied. This is what I do. And you're going to try to tell me, but you got to play the game because you want to get the role. You want to get before the director. You want to get before the producer. But anyway, Vicky calls me in for Con Air. Her and Matthew, her partner, Matthew, can't remember Matthew's last name, but it's on IMDb. And so anyway, the role that I originally had read for, and this is I think that might be my biography, the role that I originally read for. That should be the title. But the role that I originally read for was the role that Michael T. Williamson did, Baby O.
Okay, yep.
Okay. And that role had only opened up because Baby O originally was a small guy. And that role was written for, who's playing my partner in Sangre Negra, that role was written for Glenn Plummer. Okay? And because Scott Rosenberg, who I'm still fairly close with today, the screenwriter, had already worked with Glenn in things you do in Denver when you're dead, and and Glenn just had, he's just, he has a huge body of work. But for some reason, Glenn couldn't do it because he was occupied somewhere else doing something. Um, and but obviously, I didn't get the Baby O role, but Simon West, the director, ended up liking me, and they had to. The project was supposed to be like the 30 Dozen originally, and it just didn't pan out that way. Uh, they were bringing in, when we were shooting the film, they were bringing in writers from Die Hard 2, and to rewrite. Wow. Look, man, when you have a film budgeted at $90 million, almost $100 million, and you're in the middle of shooting it in the middle of the Bonneville salt flats, and you're bringing in other writers.
That's so good.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So, it was, for me, it was supposed to be sort of a real showcase of a supporting role for me. You know what I mean? And now it's more like Finding Waldo. You know what I mean? But I mean, I got one point, so, when we're crashing, I got that moment with Steve Buscemi, and then I have that moment when Danny says the federales are coming, and Ving Rhames, Diamond Dog, tells me, go tell Cyrus we got company, and I run, and then I go, I remember when I was shooting that scene, half the day was dedicated to just me on a $90 million film. My head was so big, because you got me running through the desert, man, with this track that's about 100 yards of track just for me, tracking, running from Malkovich, Cyrus, just to go, Cyrus, we got company, and we got, and me and Malcolm's got this dialogue. He's up in the boneyard in the helicopter. I'm looking up, and we got this thing. And I go, wow. They go, there's no way they can cut this shit, right? And they're gonna have me. I got my shirt off, I'm all ripped and buffed out, and I'm running through the desert. And all that's left in the film is me stopping and go, Cyrus, cut.
Well, you got lucky though, because you were Blade, and I mean, this movie, as cool as the movie is, and I love the movie, these are the stupidest names of convicts. I mean, you were Blade, but you had like you said, Diamond Dog, Sally Can't Dance, Billy the Bedroom. Dave Chappelle's guy was Pinball. I mean, these are some corny Batman names, for guys. But the movie worked, and Nicolas Cage, what people I don't think realize, he was not an action star yet. I mean, he had already kind of done like dramas and romance and stuff, but he pulled it off.
Yeah. I mean, I worked on that film. The film bought us a house, man. I mean, I worked on that film for 4 months. Okay, we started shooting that film in July, and the storyline takes place just one day, right? Mm-hmm. So we started shooting that film. By the time we crashed in Vegas, it was November. And we had to have our shirts off, and it's like 20 degrees, and they had to spritz us down like we're sweating in the middle of summer still. But all in all, man, it's one of the greatest gigs I've ever had. Jerry Bruckheimer is just a great guy to work for. He treats everybody the same. I remember after we'd done about 2 or 3 weeks on location in the Bonneville salt flats, which is where, the boneyard was built and all the big gunfighting and explosions and stuff. Mm-hmm. When we flew, we chartered a jet, and we flew back in to LA to do some interiors at Hollywood Studios, which is mostly when we're on the plane and the hydraulics of everything, and we're going to crash and all this stuff. And well, we flew the private jet. Everybody's on the jet. Cage, Malkovich, the crew, everybody. And we got a big Boeing jet, whatever. And we're flying back into L.A. from the back end of LAX. And we looked out the window and we just saw all these lights lined up. By the time we landed, we realized that all those lights were like town cars and limousines. And from Malcolm, I don't care who you were, from the biggest stars, Malkovich on down to me, everybody had their own car and their own chauffeur with their name waiting for you on the tarmac.
Wow.
As you got off the plane. That's Bruckheimer, man. That's Bruckheimer. That's how he takes care of you, you know. And but it was great. I remember we were somewhere in man, what is that town? And the only place to go and hang out was a storefront strip joint called American Bush. You know, and it got to the point, man, that we were it was Wendover, Nevada, which was the largest. It was right on the border of Utah and Nevada. It was the largest little town growing in that region at the time, which is right where the salt flats were. And all the women were very beautiful until they opened up their mouth. Everybody was doing meth. Everybody had their teeth and meth. Everybody was doing meth, man, in that town. It was just weird. And when we went to American Bush, the weird thing about it is Trejo, me, Buscemi, we all, the strippers are watching us strip. And we would drink and stuff, man, and we lost track of time. And all of a sudden, man, the door opened, and man, we went there at night. The door opened, and the sunlight came in, and it was like we were like vampires. And it was the first AD looking for us and going, "Where are you guys? Your call time." We had been in that place all night, lost track of time, and we missed all of us. And it was like we had to go do one of the biggest, longest gunfights all day at 112 degrees, and we were drunk. We were hungover like shit, man. True story, man. True story, man. It was, and we would always pull pranks on each other, man. But it was just, we had a semi truck, which was basically Cage's contract. It's a gym and a semi truck. And it was Cage's gym, you know, and I mean that was contract. It's in his rider, you know, and wherever we would end up, that semi truck where we would fly to, that semi truck would end up there, and with the gym, and we practically just ran Cage out of there, you know, and we took over it, which he hated. He hated it, man, you know.
I'm curious, because you know, people now kind of know him more as kind of a, I hate to say caricature of himself because he's an Oscar-winning actor. I'm a fan of his.
Yeah.
What was he like? Was he a cool guy, or was he kind of weird?
Well, you know what? When I first got the gig, it was like, I'm going to be working with Malkovich and Cage. And in my mind, you know, look, I've worked with a lot of stars, a lot of big guys. And, you know, they all not cool. You know, everybody's not cool. You know, you don't have the asshole. You know what I mean? And so in my mind, I said, you know, Malkovich, from what I see, is probably going to be an asshole, and Cage is going to be a guy's guy. And it was just the opposite.
Oh, that's... Yeah, Malkovich actually seems like he's so crazy he would be cool to hang out with.
No. Malkovich was so strange in a way. He'd have like a stack of fucking books that he's always reading. Very smart, brilliant guy with a huge IQ, man. Okay? He's always reading, and he would put his books to the side and goes, "You guys want to go get a half court?" You know, and he'd play basketball. He was just the coolest. And I remember when I showed up on the set, I go, I'm Malkovich. And I remember the first day of shooting, I'm in a trailer in makeup, and Malkovich walks in. I said, well, I'm definitely not going to be dealing with this crazy motherfucker, because I'm just not, you know, I'm not going to, you know, I don't know what his thing is, a star. And he comes in, he goes, "Are you Ty?" I go, "Yeah." Moffat says, "Hey." Turns out to be that D.W. Moffat, the actor D.W. Moffat, is one of his best friends, who happens to be one of my best friends.
Oh, okay.
And that broke the ice. And then he goes, "I heard you did Balm and Gilead," because he had directed the same play in Chicago a little bit after we had done it here in Hollywood, you know. And Malcolm ended up being so cool, man. And Cage was just like, don't touch me, don't touch me, don't touch me. And, and at the time he was married to Patricia Arquette, who I had known for years because I knew her sister Rosanna. And so when Patricia would show up on the set, his eyes popping out and saying, well, why are you all over Ty? And I'm like, just calm the fuck down, dude. And stuff like that. But all in all, man, it was just. I remember Bruckheimer had we were bored, and he bought out some nightclub, just for us one night, and had sawdust all over the floor, because there was a hole in the wall. It was the best he could do. And I remember Dave Chappelle, man, walked in, and he goes, man, this looks like a scene out of Hee Haw. Yeah, true story. I got so many shit. And we had to fly from one location to another, and we were like in, I think, what was it, Utah? What part of it? I can't remember. And in order, we walked out on the tarmac and got on the jet. And with the altitude, you have to get immediate altitude because you're surrounded by the Utah mountains and stuff. And it was raining and lightning. And we're on this plane, this thing was taking off, man, and it's shaking, and we like on a trajectory straight up, and I remember Danny Trejo took out his Novita and started making the sign of the cross, and Dave Chappelle started going, oh shit, and then I can't remember, it was like, man, wouldn't it be crazy? We playing a bunch of convicts that take over a plane, acting and shit, and then we actually crashed. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Yeah, man, there's so many stories, man. So many.
I'm surprised they never made a sequel to it.
There was there was a rumor that was going to happen, and Scott said, nah, it's not going to happen. And about 3 years ago, they did because Con Air is one of the top 10 action films of the 90s.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
in the top 10, and so, ArcLight did a tribute to Con Air about 3 years ago, and it included, nobody was available but me, and of course I showed up, and Simon West, the director, it was his show, it was his thing on the panel, and I showed up to surprise Simon, and Simon gave him a big hug, and it just blew my mind that the audience was packed, and everybody's quoting lines like what's that? Like the horror, Little Shop of Horrors. It's like Little Shop of Horrors, man. Everybody's quoting every line from the movie down to me, man. And it was like, oh my god. The fan base is kind of culty, and it's just that big for Con Air, man. And me and Conrad Good, who played Viking, and Emilio, and the actor that played Renly, that played Sally Can't Dance, and Brendan, we were like the only ones that survived the crash. It's like 5 of us. So we said, well, if you're doing a sequel, you're bringing us back, baby, But I don't know, man. I wish it would have been a sequel. I wish it would have been. I was trying to convince Chris and get Charlie to get Chris to do a spinoff for television based on Gusto and 40 Dog,
Yeah.
But
that would work today.
Yeah, man, it just never happened, man. And then Charlie died, so I was for years I kept saying, dude, spin us off, CB4, the television show, a half hour, HBO Showtime thing, CB4 based around, Gusto and 40 Dog and running a recording studio or some shit, or whatever. But Chris, I think there's a part of Chris that thinks CB4 is sort of below him now, to some degree.
Yeah, and that's crazy.
I mean, that's just my take on it.
No, I mean,
Because whenever I brought it up, when I've been around him a few times or whatever, I guess Chris wants to go on, and I get it. You want to go on? I mean, he was brilliant on Fargo.
yeah, and I mean, like it was kind of like, God, I feel like an idiot. Chris Tucker, like he always said, I didn't want to do the Friday movies anymore because they were, he'd look at that as a step down, which is kind of sad. So,
yeah, you know what I mean. But sometimes if you take your ego out of it, it's not. So think of your fan base and what got you there, and how you can go back and do something even better and more brilliant with it.
Think of your fan base and think of a paycheck. That's the way I'd always be.
Right. But Chris Tucker doesn't need a paycheck, and maybe Chris Rock doesn't really need much of a paycheck. But everybody's trying to stay relevant on some level or not.
Oh, yeah.
I'm definitely trying to stay relevant. I remember running into shit.
I'm trying to become relevant. I'm nobody.
No, you're somebody, Corey. Trust me. I remember running into Sugar Ray Leonard, man. And we were talking. He was like, "Why are you going?" I'm just trying to stay relevant, And it's tough, staying relevant in this game, because, like I said before earlier, the way the whole game is designed out here is, what have you done lately? They don't really respect your journey or your craft. How many mediocre actors you see, whether black, white, red, polka dot, whatever, that are working, that you just had the right agent, the right package, who got in, and they can't really act their way out of a paper bag, but they're hot because, it's because you win this big film and you win that big film. You know what I mean? It would be easier to pitch me right now if Ty was in Black Panther. And what I was telling a few of my colleagues the other day, I said, without sounding like a megalomaniac of a sort or whatever, like Stoney, myself, Reginald T. Dorsey, a lot of us, and even some of those that are older, and definitely those that are older than us, but in terms of my generation of actors, we're definitely trailblazers.
Oh, yeah.
Because there wasn't the work like that Michael B. Jordan is benefiting from right now. It wasn't around when we were coming up.
No, not at all.
You know what I mean? So, and there's some of those guys that understand that. It's not that we are looking for that. We'd rather have the gig and the check and not a pat on the back, and we're still in the game. It's the fat lady ain't nowhere. Look, man, I always say, look, I got that bitch on a diet tied up in the closet and gagged. The fat lady ain't singing shit. You know what I mean? But the bottom line, the truth of the matter is, we're trailblazers of a sort. Going back to CB4 and doing all those things and the stuff, when I was guest starring on shows doing Reasonable Doubts with Molly Madden and Mark Armand and those things and reps, it wasn't a lot of work, man. But we made it happen. We found a way, And that's why you got to respect guys like Robert Townsend, who we didn't know how to do what Robert Townsend was doing back then. Or what Fred Williamson was doing. I'm doing it now. I have a small production company. You can go to CreoleSelenaInt.com for Creole Selena Entertainment, and we've been developing stuff. And I'm a brilliant screenwriter without sounding like a my head is, I need to let some air out of, but, I've script doctored some pretty well-known, independent films that, by contract, I can't really mention it, but we're writing and we're developing and we're doing things, but people like Robert Townsend was doing it long before us, but I only started doing this like maybe 10, 12 years ago. I was like, well, let me just, right, and then that's another game in itself, of getting investors and trying to get the studio and pitching and getting your monies and things like that, And matter of fact, I have an award-winning short film that's playing on Amazon Prime right now called Diamond. Take a look at it if you can, when you can. It's about 17 minutes, but it's a big little short action film. A lot of pretty girls and stuff.
No,
but anyway,
You mentioned the website for all your fans out there. You have the website. Are you on like Instagram, Twitter, anything like that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm on the I'm on Twitter. It's Ty Grand Jones. Just look up Ty Granderson Jones. You'll find me on Twitter. That's on Twitter. On Instagram, I'm King Creole 55. You know, and Facebook, just Ty Grand Jones. I also have a fan page, Ty Granderson Jones. Facebook, Ty Granderson Jones. Twitter, Ty Grand Jones. But if you put in Ty Granderson Jones, it'll come up. I'm on all of it: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
You got the website. You got the movie. You got. I see Billy Smith is in Diamond.
Yeah. Matter of fact, Billy helped a lot with the original fight choreography. Was designed by Clay Donahue Fontenot. And if you don't know who Clay Donahue Fontenot is, you should know him. He likes to float under the radar, sort of. But me and Reginald Dorsey actually got him in the business. He came out here from Florida, Tallahassee, Florida, wanted to be a stuntman. Now he's like one of the number one stuntmen in the world, from James Bond films to working opposite Daniel Craig to, he's a brother, African American, okay? A lot of people don't know that. In the first 1 or 2 or 3 Iron Man films with Robert Downey Jr., you know what? That's an African American in that suit, making him look really good.
Mm.
And that's Clay Donahue Fontenot, and you look him up, and that's somebody, I think would be great to interview him. I think he's just so unsung, man, all the things that he does. He's one of Tarantino's go-to guys,
Billy, I'm talking to next week.
Say it again?
Billy, I'm going to talk to next week.
Oh, yeah. Billy is my guy. So Billy came in and took because Billy ended up doing what Clay was supposed to do. He choreographed the original fight choreography, Clay Donahue Fontenot, and then Billy and Clay couldn't do it because he had to go off and do a Tarantino film, and he's not going to put down a Tarantino film to do my short film. So Billy came in and completed the choreography and played the role and me and Billy go all the way back because we also did a little 8-minute short film called Tale of Two Dragons that Billy is in. That Billy did a lot of the choreography with a former partner of mine who started on it named Ada Yosef. And it's a cute little 8-minute martial arts film. But so me and Billy, so I called Billy to come in and do this, and Billy he's just a great guy. A great guy. A lot of people don't know. Billy is a master. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Oh yeah, Billy studied out of the Bruce Lee school, one of the guys that Bruce Lee taught. Billy is a white dragon kung fu master. Okay?
Wow.
And the guy that taught Billy, and you can ask Billy about this, the guy that taught Billy, trained Billy for nothing, made Billy promise him that you would share this gift, this craft of martial arts and kung fu, and never charge anybody. And because I'm not charging you, I'm not trained, So Billy has been passing on his skills to many people without earning a dime, pretty much, because of the promise of the guy that came out of the Bruce Lee's camp. Okay? Well, Billy's a bad man, dude.
I'm gonna have to train with him for free.
Oh yeah. No, Billy's a bad man. It's like drinking a cup of water for Billy. He's just, he's a bad man.
And Clay Donahue that you mentioned, that was Wesley. He's Wesley Snipes' stunt double in a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah, a lot of stuff, man. All the Blade stuff. When Wesley was, with the swords and all of that stuff, that's Clay.
And like I always like
Clay's a bad man too. He's when I met Clay, he had moved in an apartment building that he was just fresh out here, and moved into an apartment building in an apartment next door to me where I was living. And I'm quiet as a mouse, man. I like quiet, and I'm doing all this thumping and this bumping on the wall and stuff. So I knocked on the door. He was new in the building, make sure I say, hey, fella, look, the noise, you can bump it down, and we're going to have some issues here. You know what I mean? And he said, okay. And his door cracked open, and I saw a gi, a sword, and a saddle. And
it's a great combo.
So, yeah. So in the back of my head, I was like, oh, okay. He was a nice guy. I said, okay, calm down, Ty. This dude might be able to fuck you up, man. And forget about your little Muay Thai stuff, So I say, so you ride? He goes, yeah, man. Well, my family has a ranch. I said, well ranch? I go, I said, I ride. I've been riding since I was 10. I said, where's your ranch? It's Tallahassee. I said, well, I went to Florida A&M University, Florida State University. Well, I'm from Tallahassee. You're Florida boy, huh? And you ride. I said, you're more stuff here than you too. I said, why'd you come out here? So I wanted to be a stunt man. I said, you want to be a stunt man? Yeah. You got any training? He said, no. I said, lock your door right now and come with me. I'm about to go over to the set right now and visit some of my boys working on a movie, and I'm going to introduce you to the stunt coordinator who's a friend of mine. And that's how all of that happened.
Wow.
With Clay. Yeah. True story, man.
Now I got to ask you, because I've taken up a lot of your time this evening, and I know you said you've got some wife jobs to do there.
Yeah. Well,
what do you got working on now, upcoming? I know the pandemic's kind of got everything in a
bit of a
down.
Yeah, everything's really upside down right now, man. I'm day to day. My goal right now is to stay healthy. I've converted part of my little place to a gym, and working out is very important to me. I'm training, doing my Muay Thai here. I'm just staying in shape, and so many different ways of staying in shape spiritually, and physically, so that, look, this too shall pass. And from my point of view, is all the knuckleheads that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing right now, who are not going to be with us anymore because they didn't do what they were supposed to be doing, or those that can't weather the storm, those of us who are just doing what we're supposed to do will be the better for it, So I'm basically right now just staying focused. I mean, my manager and agents have called me for a few things, and I've actually passed because, to me, my wife has asthma. I'm just not going to take the risk, man, unless it seems to be really worth the risk of getting my wife sick or whatever. I'm just staying put until things look a little. I'm blessed, man, where we put a little away where it's chipping away right now because nobody's working. But I'm blessed that we put a little away that we can just say, let's stay quarantined. I'll go to the stores. Let's do what we got to do. So right now, I'm developing my script, my project, which I originally written at Sundance, called The Cool and Creepy. It's a gangster genre feature film, budgeted around $10 million. We actually had part of that budget prior to COVID. COVID fucked that whole thing up, and now it's about just waiting for things to settle down and getting investors back to the table. At one time, I had the interest of Paul Schrader's camp, loved the script. And I've been told from his camp that it's one of the best gangster scripts that they've ever written. And it should be, because I've been writing and tweaking the motherfucker for 12 years. Okay, so it's called The Cool and Creepy. It takes place in Florida, in Tampa. It's an offbeat underground gangster thriller. I'm just developing that with my company, which is international. My main partner is in Cologne, Germany. My other partners are in Mauritius Island in India, and my other one is in Scandinavia. So it's a little international group of us that believe in what I'm doing through my company, Creole Celine Entertainment. So I'm focused on that right now and staying healthy. And so, into the middle of next year, when my managers and agents call me or in regards to that Ty Granderson perfect role, I'm ready. The thing is stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Mm-hmm.
That's just where I am right now. I'm writing and not really just trying to do much right now, other than just stay away from this thing, which is getting worse.
Yes.
People just can't sit tight. They say don't travel. They travel Thanksgiving. We haven't even gotten the numbers from that fiasco yet, and then they do it again for Christmas
and the New Year's parties too.
Yeah, and New Year's.
Crazy.
So come by the end of January, and then that being led by a leader that called it originally a hoax.
Mm-hmm.
If we had gotten a grip, we would be further down the road than if it had not been considered a hoax. So I'm just staying tight, ready. California is one of the most expensive states, if not the most expensive state in the United States of America, and it's been really tough out here for a lot of people. I got friends who own restaurants that will never open again, that are losing their houses, and families struggling. I have movie star buddies that are panicking right now when you see them in 2 and 3 films a year. You know why? Because they have to be in 2 and 3 films a year.
Yeah.
Because they have staff that they have to pay. They have $20 million, $30, $40 million. It's a mess out here. We're barely at 30% capacity, and there are productions going on, but from my point of view, it should not be going on. In my neighborhood, we looked down from the hills and we saw American Idol at the Kodak Theater, even though they had contestants outside in tents. Why is that happening?
Yeah.
Tiny Lester is dead right now because he showed up on the set to work because he had to and because he could and got COVID again. So this, it's not worth it to me right now.
No, it's not worth it, period.
You know what I mean? And the point I was making is, I know families, that have had, living in really nice $2 and $3 million homes, losing their homes and losing their condos and their apartments, packing up with the 2 and 3 of the kids and going back to where they came from 30 years ago to live with their parents right now because their flat broke and nothing's happening in LA right now because California is so expensive, and there's a mass exodus happening right now in the state of California and Los Angeles. People are leaving and because they can't weather it. And other than those that I love and care about, there are too many motherfuckers out here anyway. Goodbye. So, I feel like those who are able to weather the storm here in Los Angeles and in our industry are going to be the better for it. You know what I mean? Because, look, man, you can walk in California to buy a sandwich for $5, and by the time you walk out after paying taxes, it's $12.99. It's expensive out here, and it's tough. But everybody's buckling down and trying to stay healthy, and that's certainly what my wife and I are doing. And do I need to be working? Yes. Do I want to work? Yes. But it's for me to even stick my neck out right now. I don't care how many times you show up on a test and you're testing me 2 and 3 times. It's like the NFL.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, my team is the Saints. Alvin Kamara couldn't play, and Murray, the fullback, other running back, couldn't play because they both got. Well, you know what? It's going to happen. You know, and to me, the only way we're really going to get past it is a lot. See, there's a method to the madness. First of all, you can't tell people to stay home and lock businesses down and not have some type of financial support.
Mm-hmm.
You got to pay all the businesses, and then you got to pay the people. You got to give us a reason to not panic by staying home. We need a national shutdown.
Yes.
You know, it's not called Kansas State or California State. It's called the United States of America, and you can't go from city. You can't just say, well, this state is doing that way, and then that state is doing. You know, that's the left hand don't know what the right hand is doing, and then if I cross state lines, and I'm in. You know, it makes no sense.
No.
So it's because of leadership. So until you know, we get our shit together, you know, by the end of January, February, I'm just staying put and focused. And when it's time to go, I'll be ready to go. I'm staying ready, so I don't have to get ready.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, better to act 20 times next year and not be dead, you know, than
Right.
act twice this year and catch something.
Right. Exactly. You know what I mean? So, and you know, and I'm sort of a hermit. I like being on the low anyway. Mm-hmm. You know, and then when, you know, being locked up at 19, you know, this is, you know, this piece of cake, bro. You know, I mean, I felt that way. You know, I was in China teaching for 3 months in 2017, and we were sort of on, you know, it's a communist country, and there was no TV, there was nothing, and the studio had hired me to come over there for 3 months to school some of their actors on film acting by Hollywood standards, and in China, the studio system over there is like the old Hollywood studio system. They contract their actors. So the studio hired me to come over and school some of it, and it was me and a couple of other guys, and it was tough for them. For me, it was a piece of cake, you know, because I know how to stay put, man, you know. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that's where we are right now, you know. But I appreciate you, Corey, having an interest in this journey, and you know, it humbles me when anybody wants to hear about what I've accomplished, you know. Because, you know, unlike a lot of actors and stars, which a lot of my boys, I have to pull their coattails. I go, look, man, you're just an actor. You're not necessarily changing. You're not Gandhi, okay? You're just an actor. And you've had a certain degree of success financially, and some more than us and others, but it doesn't it doesn't mean that you're necessarily better than me. Okay, you know, how God goes goose, 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 duck, I don't know. You know, but, you know, just check yourself and stay humble, you know, and, you know, I'm blessed in that manner because my father taught me what to go about life the way he went about life, which is, you know, he's a man that walked with kings, but he kept a common touch, you know.
Well, I got to say, you got a hell of a story, and I want to thank you so much for taking the time to share it with me.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. And let's stay in touch, man.
Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. You have been listening to the Chronicles of Hollywood History. Thank you from Gomez Richmond Productions.